This is Lowell Thomas inviting you to come on another Cinerama adventure, an epic journey such as no man ever made. We're going on a flight around the world in our Cinerama Clipper, an air voyage to 5 continents in search of the wonders of the world. The inspiration behind the idea for this aerial voyage goes back to the days when here in my own home, in this same room, I first introduced to you that new revolutionary medium of entertainment. Remember when I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinerama. And we went on that dizzy, thrilling roller coaster ride? Actually, it goes back even farther than that. A friend of mine, an inventor, Fred Waller, for 14 years had been working on his new Cinerama process. Hazard Reeves had just added revolutionary stereophonic sound. Cinerama was still in the laboratory. Nearly all the heads of the motion picture industry saw the tests and marveled. But they went away saying it was too complicated, too cumbersome, too expensive. But to me, it seemed as though Waller and Reeves had performed a miracle. It seemed to me they had something that was perfect for the sort of thing I had been doing ever since I was with Allenby when he was driving the Turks from Palestine, and when I was with that most colorful adventurer of our time, Lawrence of Arabia. I don't recall whether it was Lawrence who suggested it or whether I did, but we talked about the ancient list of the 7 wonders of the world. He was an archaeologist, and we discussed the idea of bringing that ancient list up to date. And then, not long after the First World War, I was lucky enough to be the historian of man's first flight around the world. The flight was made in a specially designed Douglas World Cruiser. This is a model. The first circumnavigation of the globe by air, a milestone in the history of man, bringing fame as enduring as the pyramids, I think, to these brilliant airmen standing on either side of me. My candidate for the world's #1 flyer. Near the end of World War II, I chased General Jimmy Doolittle around the globe and failed to catch him, flying part of the time with General Hap Arnold, Chief of the U.S. Air Force. And a few years ago, my son and I flew around again. That was when we crossed the Himalayas to inner Tibet. And when we got to Lhasa, the real Shangri-La, we saw the Potala, the palace of the Dalai Lama, rising from the valley floor to its golden domes, 2/3 as tall as the Empire State Building. What a marvelous thing it would have been if we could have had Cinerama in Lhasa. But by the time we got home and discovered Cinerama, the red tide had rolled over Tibet. During all the years that I had been spanning the oceans and flying round and round the world, I more and more came to feel that the time had come when, at last, we should bring that ancient list of the 7 wonders of the world up to date. General Marion Cooper and I had produced the first one, This is Cinerama, which broke all entertainment records. So when I presented my 7 wonders idea to our Stanley Warner Cinerama colleagues, they said, Go ahead, Lowell. Let your dream come true. And that's the story of how and why we are now setting forth on this odyssey. But before we leave, may I point out something that you already know? When the Greeks formulated their original Seven Wonders list, the world they knew was centered here in the Eastern Mediterranean. From this small area, Western civilization spread. But man now is familiar with the entire planet. Do you remember what were the original Seven Wonders? I had to look them up, too. There is one that you do remember, the Colossus of Rhodes. We are told that it stood astride the harbor at Rhodes in the Eastern Mediterranean, and that it was so tall, ships could sail between its legs. Another was a gorgeous temple to the goddess Diana. The Greeks called her Artemis. It was in the ancient city of Ephesus, where St. Paul preached. Not far from Ephesus in Asia Minor was the city of Halicarnassus. When its ruler, King Mausolus, died, his queen built him a tomb, the tomb of Mausolus at Halicarnassus, from which we get our word, mausoleum. The Greeks had an important shrine at the site of the original Olympic Games. In it was a statue of Zeus, Jupiter to the Romans, a masterpiece of ivory and gold created by Phidias, foremost sculptor of ancient times. In the story of Julius Caesar, you may recall reading about a great lighthouse at the mouth of the Nile near the city of Alexandria. It was called the Pharos, and we are told that it stood there for 1,500 years until finally destroyed by an earthquake in the 14th century. And then the sixth, of which we have heard so often and still constantly referred to, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, there on the right. Legend tells us that King Nebuchadnezzar erected the Hanging Gardens for his queen, and she was a princess from the mountains, and she pined for her mountains. And this was Nebuchadnezzar's attempt to provide a substitute for her here on the flat desert of Mesopotamia. The spiral tower that you see across the river Euphrates, our artist has included the Tower of Babel along with the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. All six of these have two things in common. They were all man-made, and they have all long since disappeared. Only one of the ancient seven wonders remains. High-speed modern transportation makes it possible for man now to go to any place on the planet in a hurry. And Cinerama gives us the feeling that we are actually there. And that is why I am now inviting you to join me in bringing the ancient seven wonders list up to date. With this difference, we not only are going to include spectacular man-made wonders, but also the wonders of nature. And before we set forth on this odyssey, let's put on 7-league boots and pay our respects to the only one of the ancient seven that remains. See that remaining ancient wonder through the magic of Cinerama. The Greeks of antiquity rated the pyramids of Egypt as the greatest and the oldest of the seven wonders. Shall we still include the pyramids as one of the seven wonders of the world? Here they are, almost unchanged in 5,000 years. And from the way they look, they'll be here for thousands of years after you and I are gone. Ah, but our point of departure is not the pyramids. Setting forth on our search, we fly away from New York on a modern magic carpet taking off from the towering metropolis of the modern world. Off we go for a whirl around the globe, on our way to see what strange marvels we'll find. Man-made wonders and wonders of nature. Manhattan on the right, some small islands here in the river, and on our left, Long Island and Brooklyn. 4 great bridges spanning this eastern half of the Hudson. Let's give these bridges a special farewell salute. Flying over Queensboro Bridge. Oh, under it. Past the United Nations building. While we seek world wonders, they seek world peace. Surely the greatest wonder of all. Now 3 more bridges. This one, the Williamsburg. Over? No, under again. The one they call the Manhattan. The one they are always selling to somebody. The Brooklyn Bridge, oldest of them all. So long, fair lady. We won't be seeing you again until we have circled the world. Off we go, continent to continent, wonder hunting. First stop, South America, with its all-devouring jungle. Of the wonders of nature, we abruptly come upon one in the remote wilderness, right in the heart of South America, near where the borders of Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay meet. One of the greatest of waterfalls. A series of giant cascades with a combined rim twice as wide as Niagara and half again as high. In fact, in the spring, the water flowing over is twice the volume of Niagara. Would you put Iguazu on your list of the 7 wonders of the modern world? In the tropical wilderness of South America, we also come upon an unexpected wonder, a freak of nature, a battle between the jungle and the sands. The sand dunes from the coast of Brazil locked in a struggle with the equatorial forest. An invasion of yellow thrust into the green hell, with the sands winning. A few years ago, a roving American pilot named Jimmy Angel, flying over this immense wilderness, as we are now, was startled to behold a lost world on yon plateau, with a whole series of waterfalls leaping toward the jungle. And these, in Venezuela, are the highest of all the waterfalls in the world, 20 times as high as Niagara, 2/3 of a mile high. Angel Falls, named for the barnstorming adventurer. South America, continent of violent contrast. Brazil, land of seemingly endless jungle. And suddenly unfolding before us, the most spectacular city in the world, Rio. Rio de Janeiro,
the river of January. But there's no river here, nor is it January all year round. But it was January in 1502 when the Portuguese navigators first sighted this coast. As they sailed in, they thought, well, surely there's a river flowing into this great harbor. So they called it Rio de Janeiro. In the distance, Sugarloaf, curiously shaped rock, landmark of Rio. Spreading on and on with its great suburbs, each among the hills like a city in itself. Now, the higher up you live, the lower your rent in Rio. Wealthy Brazilians prefer to be right down on the beach. The poor are the high livers, the rich the lower. A Rio paradox. On our left up there, a Rio slum. The oceanfront at Rio is of world renown. Mile after mile, the Avenida. And have you heard of the unusual building restrictions at Rio? You can't put up anything less than 12 stories. Man-made cliffs along the ocean. Shall we include Rio as a wonder? For surely it is the wonder city of the world. We all know the jungle is wild, but wildest of all is carnival time at Rio. Then, for a complete change of mood, flying through the clouds, we come upon Corcovado, 2,200 feet above the city, crowned with a wonder of sculpture. 100 feet high, the Christ with arms outstretched as if in blessing. Here we go again, continent to continent, South America to Asia this time, over the greatest ocean of them all. Next stop, Japan.
Boy, oh boy.
That look in your eye, Paul, what are you thinking about?
All those geisha girls.
When most of us think about Japan, well, we either think about cherry blossoms or that wonder mountain, Fujiyama. Or maybe the Kamakura Buddha. Would you put this giant sculpture on your list? Down on the Japanese farm, a countryside in pastel shades. The fish are carp, bred for color. Some priced at $10,000 each. Poor fish? Well, hardly. Arriving at Tokyo Airport, our Pan American Cinerama Clipper. Japan, of course, depends on the great sky routes across the vast Pacific. And Pan American itself a technological wonder, pioneered trans-Pacific aviation.
Oh boy, Tokyo!
Greetings to honorable GIs. Honorable GIs are eager to see the sights of Japan. And everywhere the GIs go, the kids are sure to go. In our search for the wonders of the world, shall we include feminine beauty? In a Japanese garden with music, as it's played in Japan today. wonders of this far eastern land include many an ancient shrine and many a traditional ceremony, a few of which visitors are invited to perform, like the ceremony of the gong. The ultra-modern rickshaw that the coolie used to pull. In our tricycle rickshaw, we ride almost into the lobby of the Takarazuka Theater, where we hear the way popular music is played in Japan nowadays. Note the decidedly Western flavor. Back to Kankakee, Kokomo, Keokuk, and Kalamazoo with the usual GI souvenirs. And the girls they leave behind. So long, Young Young. So long, Pity Sing. Their search for the wonders of the world is over. Goodbye, Madam Butterfly. As we fly over Southeast Asia, we look down upon a lost empire, Angkor Wat in Cambodia. 1,000 years ago, a conquering people called the Khmers established a brilliant kingdom here with a civilization that originated in India. After many centuries, the Khmers were overthrown, and their shrines and their cities reverted to the jungle to be resurrected in our own time, not long ago, and surely one of the wonders of the world. Buddhist monks at a shrine long forgotten and only recently brought to light again. Benares, religious wonder city of India, on the Ganges, the sacred river. A pilgrimage city from time immemorial, with its famous ghats, the landing places along the river. For centuries, the great and the rich, Maharaja and merchant, have built shrines and palaces here along the Ganges. Of temples alone, Benares has 1,500. A wonder city of strange religion. A temple dance, a cobra dance. The deadly hooded serpent has a weird significance. Strange mysticism in this performance of the temple dancers and the cobra. She has come with her parents, and she turns out to be quite a remarkable mimic. Any of you married couples ever have a bridal procession like this? Have some gum, chum. India inherited much from the British, including London Bridge is falling down. American influence, too. And finally, some Hindu music. Where is the bride? Oh, she stays at home. And the bridegroom? Oh, there he is. You've heard of the Benares Monkey Temple. This is it, dedicated to one of the favorite Hindu divinities, the monkey god, Hanuman. Nearly all temples in India have their dancing girls trained from childhood, even here at the Monkey Temple. Motoring through Benares or through any Indian city is not to be recommended if you have a weak heart. Look out for the sacred cows. If you hit one, then you will have to look out. The age-old feud of India between the mongoose and the cobra. Now, the mongoose is not immune from the lethal poison of the cobra, so it depends on its incredible agility. Look, he's taking a bow. And the mongoose always wins. Arriving at the scene of an immortal story. Some 300 years ago, the great Mughals ruled in India. One of them, the Emperor Shah Jahan. And his greatest treasure was his favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal. She died when she was young. And he, in his despair and grief, determined to rear for her a tomb worthy of her grace and beauty. As all men know, he created a masterpiece, the Taj Mahal. Alas, Shah Jahan had to spend his declining years in prison. He was deposed by his own son. But there he could look out on the monument that he had erected to the woman he loved. Look and dream. And so we have what many today consider the loveliest wonder of the world, the Taj Mahal.
Right ahead of us now, the Himalayas, highest mountains in the world.
Next up, Darjeeling and a cup of tea. In our search for world wonders, let's visit India's most famous mountain resort, Darjeeling, high in the Himalayas. Famed, too, for that Darjeeling tea. To carry freight and passengers up the Himalayan slopes, well, that would seem to be a task for a giant. Here's our giant at the Kurseong station, down near the plains. Dopey Dan. He thinks he's in the wagon lead. And meet Mo and Joe. They sand the track to keep the wheels from slipping. We're off on the steep climb to Darjeeling. Ernest the engine, puffing and puffing. To get up these steep Himalayan slopes, they continually have to pour sand on the rails like that. The Darjeeling run is one of the toughest that railroaders know. Up enormous mountains, mountains that are themselves a world wonder. Would you select our Darjeeling train as one of the technological wonders of the modern world, the world of railroading? Something blocking the track. What is it? Surely it can't be. Yes, it's an elephant snoozing. Shoo, shoo. Maybe they're wild elephants. Maybe they're dangerous. Let's call a big game hunter with a high-powered rifle. Ah, here he comes. Sabu the elephant boy. Hey, what's up? Guess the brakes have gone. A runaway train. That's happened before, but never quite like this. Can they head it off? light, seems surprised at the train that runs backwards. Right back where they started. But Dopey Dan doesn't know it. Thank you. Fine ride. We are on our way to trace the wonder story of the world, as told in the book that has influenced mankind more than any other, the Bible. Continent hopping again, this time to Egypt, with Cairo its modern capital, where imagination takes us back to the pharaohs and to the epic story told in the book of Exodus. Look out, Abdul, you'll be run over by a camel. The Nile of ancient renown, near the banks of which the children of Israel were kept so long in bondage. In the flight of the Israelites from Egypt, their way was right across what we call the Isthmus of Suez, where today we see the Suez Canal, another technological wonder. In Exodus, we read how Moses again and again repeated to Pharaoh the command of the Lord. Pharaoh, let my people go. Beyond Suez, just outside Egypt, we approach the mountain of the Ten Commandments, Mount Sinai. There, the mountain of which the Bible says, "And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount. And the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount. And the 10 Commandments were given." On a lower slope of Mount Sinai, an ancient monastery commemorating Moses and the tablets of the law. For 40 years, Moses led the children of Israel through the mountain desolation of the Sinai Peninsula. Yes, this is the wilderness. We read that Aaron, brother of Moses, was buried on Mount Hor, that summit just below us, with a white shrine. The Israelites tarried long at the southern end of the Dead Sea, the lowest spot on earth. In itself a strange wonder of nature, the Dead Sea, more than 1,000 feet below sea level. And then they journeyed on to the Promised Land. Legend says that there in the heart of Hebron were buried Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, together with their wives Sarah, Rebekah, and Leah. The cave of Machpelah with the sacred tomb is beneath that building, inside the rectangular enclosure. On to the northern end of the Dead Sea, to Jericho, where the walls fell down. Remember how in the book of Joshua we read, "And it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat." Along the old Jericho road, recalling how the 12 tribes of Israel won Palestine and established a flourishing kingdom. In the Psalms, the poet sings, "If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth." temples of ancient Israel were built here. There they stood through the centuries until the last was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. The ancient Jewish state overthrown. And today the Mosque of Omar occupies the site of Solomon's temple. Did you ever hear of the stronghold of Masada? The scene of tragic heroism in the Jewish revolt against Rome. The defenders hurling themselves over the cliff, preferring death to surrender. At the bottom, the old Roman wall, dating back to that era of the final effort of ancient Israel for national freedom. The green fields of modern Israel bring the Jewish story right down to date, from ancient tragedy to present revival. Israel restored. Zionist settlers have done wonders in the practice of advanced agriculture, so here today the color is green. The ancient port of Acre, one of the great gateways to Palestine. After 2,000 years, a Jewish state has been restored in the old land. For ages, a people in exile. And now a host of exiles returning to build a new nation. Let us tarry a moment. Let us recall another story. A story that begins at Bethlehem. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And the angels sang, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." The Bethlehem of today, with the Church of the Nativity. Flying on north, we come upon Nazareth, where Jesus lived in his youth and worked as a carpenter. A city made immortal by the name that has dominated Christendom for nearly 2,000 years. Jesus of Nazareth. Nearby the valley of the Jordan, the river in which the Savior was baptized by John the Baptist. Overlooking the Jordan, the Mount of Temptation, of which we read, "And the devil taketh him up into an exceedingly high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them. All of which Satan offered to Jesus, if he would give up the kingdom of heaven." The Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on the water. The sea in which the apostles cast their nets. And the chief of the 12 was Simon, called Peter, a fisherman. The gospel story takes us to the tragic consummation. Gethsemane, outside Jerusalem. Then cometh Jesus with them to a place called Gethsemane, so the gospel relates. The story of the agony in the garden. Into the city through St. Stephen's Gate, where Stephen was stoned. The way pilgrims have come for centuries to pray at the scenes named by tradition. And imagination can picture those events when Jesus was led forth to be crucified. The Via Dolorosa, The way of the cross, named by tradition as the road to Calvary, where the Savior, crowned with thorns, carried his cross. And there followed him, says the gospel, a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jesus, turning unto them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. When they were come to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him. The story in the minds of the pilgrims as they make this journey along the Via Dolorosa. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, its ancient walls ever in need of repair, legended as the scene of the resurrection, where at Easter the cry rings out, He is risen, He is risen. And finally, the Mount of Olives, the scene of the Ascension. Africa, dark continent of long dramatic legend. Great fire mountains are just about the most exciting of all the wonders of nature. And here before us in East Africa is a lord of volcanoes with a rising column of volcanic gas. Shall we take a look right into the burning crater? Our Cinerama aerial cameraman, Paul Mance, is afraid the sulfur fumes will cut his engines for a forced landing in what could be a pit of hell in Dante's Inferno. Africa, renowned above all for its wonders of the animal kingdom. Herds of hippos on the Victoria Nile. Hippopotamus is Greek for river horse. The Greeks had a word for nearly everything. These do look a bit like horses there in the river. How would you like to ride a hippo? Africa, wonderland for numbers and varieties of huge animals, like the elephant herd. An old bull, a monarch with a bird for a crown. Now a bit of drama in the elephant country. For the local tribes, baby elephants are fair game. They capture them and tame them, or try to. For the African elephant is difficult to tame. Let's join an elephant hunt and see how they catch one. Protest from Jumbo. Here's how they tame and train a baby elephant at an elephant school. How do you like going to school, baby Jumbo? The end of a perfect day in elephant country. Still trying to call them back to the jungle. African crocodiles are man-eaters, so this is not a place where you and I can swim and relax. Pink flamingos in a pastel-colored cloud. Africa has only 5 million people of European origin and 200 million Africans, like the Watusi in the Belgian Congo. The tall people, 7-footers, are common among them. For a lofty stature, they are a wonder of the human race. High jumping, the favorite sport among the Watusi. Now they move it up a notch. That solemn character standing at the hurdle is a 7-footer. The king approaches, the Mwami, in royal ceremonial costume. With him, his Belgian advisor, who is of ordinary European stature. The Watusi are the tallest people on earth. The king, the Mwami, a truly regal figure. On with the dance, says the Mwami. His name is Butera. He's the star, hailed as the greatest dancer in Africa, the Nijinsky of the Watusi. The little girls of the tribe take their dancing seriously. Like grown-ups everywhere, amused by the younger generation. Now for a wonder name of legend and mystery. Timbuktu, below us. Once a forbidden city, almost inaccessible in the southern Sahara. A goal for high adventure. The Sahara Salt Caravan. To the south, the tribal people have no salt. It's a rare luxury. In this part of the Sahara, there are salt oases. So these camels, 1,000 of them, carry treasure to a world where salt is like gold. When we think of mighty wonders of nature, two names always come to mind: Niagara Falls and Victoria Falls. Ah, but we are a long, long way from Honeymoon Bridge, for we are now flying over Rhodesia. We had our first thrill, saw our first wonder in South America, Iguazu Falls. Now another. Telltale cloud of spray heralds Victoria Falls, found by Livingston before Stanley found him, wider than Niagara and twice as high. What a challenge it is for Cinerama, here where the Zambezi plunges into a narrow canyon. The violent impact of water raising misty clouds. In the crater of an extinct volcano, a lake that seems to mirror the dark, strange beauty of Africa. All around us now are the mountains of Yemen, one of the wildest, one of the least known parts of the world. And by the way, down here in these mountains is where they first started to grow coffee and where they first started to drink it. From Africa, we have flown across to Arabia, coming in over a land of desert and enchantment. Beyond these forbidding mountains of Yemen on the coast, we are heading for the desolation of the inner desert, with wonders rising like pageants out of the Arabian Nights. Only a few miles ahead of us is the most frightful of all deserts, the Rubal Khali, the land of emptiness, which the Arabs themselves never penetrated. The empty quarter lies just beyond this valley, where rounding a cliff, we suddenly come upon one of the least known wonders of the world. A skyscraper city. What could be stranger? The city of Shibam, in a region called the Hadramaut. People living here in modern-looking skyscrapers, just as they have lived since before the dawn of history. From time immemorial, the local pride here has been to erect these tall buildings. Why does a chicken cross the road? Oh, because the camels are going that way. Hopeful chicken. The city waterworks. Siom, another skyscraper city. There are several in this valley, right on the edge of the land of emptiness. At one time, this was the land of frankincense and myrrh. Now let's visit a paramount sheikh of the inner desert. In fact, he is a sharif. That means a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad.
Sheriff Hussein, we didn't expect such an impressive ceremony as this. It's like stepping back into the pages of the Arabian Nights.
أهلا وسهلا يا حضرة الرئيس، شرفتنا بوصولك.
Thank you.
Subordinate sheikhs pay homage. They kiss his hand, and they kiss his dagger.
Jerry?
Now the camel stampede, camels by the thousands. This is the wealth of Sharif Hussein. From the Hadramaut and the borders of Yemen, we swing north, right over the Rubal Khali, directly across the empty quarter, the most forbidding desert on earth, never crossed until recently. And then suddenly, we come upon a wonder of modern technology. Here on the face of the desert, an oil pipeline, extending for hundreds of miles across the sands. Why the streak of flame? Oh, just waste gas. The Bedouin and their camels still traverse the ancient caravan trails just as they did before the Prophet Muhammad was born. But now, along the same desert routes, come the air-conditioned caravans of the American oil men. It may sound like a worn-out phrase to say the old and the new, but how can you avoid it here? The old tribal life and the new technology. American oil rigs. Below this desert of eastern Arabia near the Persian Gulf is an ocean of oil recently developed by American oil men, bringing about an extraordinary phenomenon of the modern world. At the great Aramco refinery, a workday ends. The Muslim workers pray in response to the call of the muezzin, bowing in the direction of the holy city of Mecca. The ruler of this fabulous realm of oil is King Saud, who receives oil royalties amounting to $1 million a day, making Saud the richest man in the world. The American-Arabian oil city of Dhahran on the Persian Gulf. The desert falcon used for hunting. Young America, right in the middle of the Arabian Nights. Take me out to the ball game in the land of Araby. And don't miss the donkey on the right. King Saud and some of his 30 sons appear to be baseball fans. Swinging west from the desert to the Somme, from the lands of the Orient to the Western world. Now we're looking down on that historic point where Asia meets Europe. Istanbul, old Constantinople on the Bosphorus, the strait that divides Europe from Asia. The city that lies on two continents, on the left Europe, on the right Asia. Mount Olympus, home of the gods of ancient Greece. Jupiter and his thunderbolts. Apollo with his golden lyre. Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Imagine them all right there on that cloudy summit. The trail of Western civilization leads to classical Greece. Athens. There on the Acropolis, the Parthenon, temple of the goddess Athena, patroness of Athens. The Parthenon, architectural wonder of the world. Could they be Plato and Socrates? No, and not Demosthenes and Diogenes either. That's the military costume of the modern Greek mountaineer. Along a portico of the Parthenon, which may be an ancient wonder, but it is also modern. For in Athens was born an idea that exists today in every country where men are free. For it was here 2,500 years ago that was born the ideal of democracy, liberty of the mind, freedom of the spirit. The Isles of Greece, center of the ancient world, reminding us how easy it is now to fly around the world and behold its wonders. on across the Mediterranean to Naples, rival of Rio de Janeiro as a spectacular city. The scene here is a wonder of long legend. At the entrance of the magnificent harbor, that most famous volcano of them all, Mount Vesuvius. Fortunately, now quiet. Not at all like it was when it erupted and destroyed Pompeii off there to the right, 1900 years ago. And what do we see ahead? Why, it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa, that slanting medieval wonder that still leans. Rome is, above all, the wonder city of historic monuments. Glorious architecture, marvels of the fine arts that have come down from antiquity, from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. A modern metropolis, too, this eternal city. What lucky travelers we are. How few have had such an intimate sky view of St. Peter's and the Vatican as this. We spiral right down over the Colosseum and arrive in Rome at an auspicious time. For now, the Roman Catholic Church is celebrating the end of the Marian year with a splendor of ritual and pageant. The Colosseum still seems to proclaim the power of the Roman Empire. The corridor through which the gladiators walked on their way into the arena to fight and also to die before Caesar and that cruel Roman crowd. In this amphitheater, the Christians were thrown to the lions. And now, here in this place of martyrdom, the Christian litany is recited.
Mater Creatoris, Mater Salvatoris, Virgo Prudentissima, Virgo Veneranda, Virgo Predicanda, Virgo Potens, Virgo Clemens, Virgo Fidelis, Speculum Justitiae, Sede Sapientiae, Causa nostre Laetitiae, Vas spirituale, vas honorabile, vas infini devozione.
The Roman Forum, center of the political life of the Roman state. Here you might commune with the shades of Cicero, Caesar, Brutus, and Mark Antony. Today, Pope Pius XII will give a benediction at St. Peter's, and all Rome is going. 3 pilgrims in particular.
Ma devo andare dal Papa, signora, fatto prima come ha fatto il ragazzino.
The boy has been ill, but has recovered, and in a spirit of thanksgiving, they are taking him to receive the papal blessing on this day of days. Ah, but they are late. Somebody is always late.
gente andando in mezzo alla strada. Ma ce l'hai messa la benzina?
Sì, che ce l'ho messa.
You'll constantly notice that obelisk in the middle of the square. It was brought to Rome from Egypt nearly 2,000 years ago, brought by one of the Caesars. The interior of the greatest church in the world, never before lighted for film. St. Peter's with Michelangelo's dome, one of the wonders of the world, the largest church in all Christendom.
Autoritate continuis, ipsi intercedant pro nobis ad Dominum. Recibus et emeritis beatum Maria Semper Virginis, beati Michaelis Archangelis, beati Ioannis Baptiste, et Sanctorum Apostolorum Petri et Pauli et omnium Sanctorum, misereatur vestri omnipotens Deus, et dimissis omnibus peccatis vestris, perducat vos Iesus Christus, ad vitam aeterna. Indulgentiam absolutionem et remissionem omnium peccatorum vestrorum, spatium avere et fructuose penitentiae, cor semper penitens et emendationem et vitae, gratiam et consolationem et Sancti Spiritus, et finalem perseverantiam in bonis operibus, private vobis omnipotens, et misericors Domini.
there's Cardinal Spellman. The Cardinal helped arrange this filming for Cinerama. Just arranging it was something of a wonder. Too late, it's all over. Giovanni and Maria are sadly disappointed. Will the Bambino have to go without the benediction of the Pope? Apparently, yes. They are told that all they can do now is offer up a prayer of thanksgiving at the high altar. But here is help. They tell their story to a prelate, and he informs them that the pontiff has gone to Castel Gandolfo, the papal residence in the hills outside Rome. There he will give a special benediction. They can attend by getting a special permission. So quickly they are on their way. Castel Gandolfo, the changing of the Swiss guards in their uniforms designed by Michelangelo.
Et que Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et maniat semper. Amen. et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, descendat super vos et emaniat semper. Amen.
I'm a little breathless. I had long thought about capturing the magnificence of a papal ceremony, and that was it, like something out of the Middle Ages. On this flight around the world, we have seen many, many wonders, and we could go on and on. By the way, we may have missed your favorite completely. So far, we have visited 4 continents with one more to go, our own. The wonders there may be familiar to all of us, but how can our search be complete without a look at some of them? So, for an epilogue, let's span the Atlantic, and then from all that we have seen around the globe, let's choose our Magic 7. That Magic 7 to be selected by you, and you, and you. Hail, fair lady, here we are again. We've been visiting ancient lands, and ours is a new country. We've seen many an edifice of majestic masonry, while our tall buildings are of structural steel. New York, engineered with steel. The Empire State, tallest of buildings, a quarter of a mile high with its 60,000 tons of steel. Would you include it as one of the Magic 7? The familiar geometrical beauty of a great bridge. Ah, yes, we are at home among exploits of engineering, such as harnessing the water power of the New World, like the Hoover Dam, which holds back the waters of the largest of all lakes made by man. Of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, only one was of practical utility, the lighthouse at Alexandria, the Pharos. The other 6 were all aesthetic in character. But ours is an era of technological wonders that are useful to man. Home sweet home in the technological 20th century. In Texas, it means an oil well right in your front yard. But in utter contrast to the complexities of modern technology, ours is also a country where simplicity has its greatest hold on man, like the little white church of the Protestant tradition. The Sunday service of gospel sermon and hymns, the old American tradition of church and family, the simplicities that are so much our own.
Won't you join us, stranger?
Thanks, lady. Those steaks are so irresistible, I couldn't keep from coming over to find out what you're doing.
And what are you doing?
Oh, we are looking for the 7 wonders of the world. Have you any suggestions?
The 7 wonders? That's easy. Just count them, stranger. There are my 7 wonders of the world.
Hey, Mom, I'm hungry.
Perhaps you're right. Maybe we shouldn't have bothered about the Taj Mahal, Victoria Falls, and all the rest.
And what about our natural wonders, such as the Grand Canyon of the Colorado?
This is my country.
Victoria Falls in Africa, what would you now say about our own Niagara, the world's sentimental wonder? Would you put on your list of the Magic Seven the oldest living thing on Earth, the giant sequoia of California? It's like standing before the spire of a church that points to the heavens. Here where man seems humble indeed, beneath these trees that were alive 1,000 years before the birth of Christ, 3,000 years old. What more appropriate place to conclude our odyssey